Welcome to drafting the arbitrage ADP gaps. We don't have time for a draft right now, but was running some numbers and thought it was interesting what I was seeing when comparing DraftKings data to Underdog data. And today we're looking at it from the perspective of the Underdog data. And I think what you'll find, or what I'm finding, I think, when looking at this data is that things are a little bit tougher on Underdog with one exception possibly. So in my last video, we did take note that Parker Washington is a large value on Underdog compared to DraftKings. He's going 15, 16 picks later on Underdog compared to DraftKings. And I'm kind of in that camp a little bit where I don't know if Parker Washington should be pulled up all the way to 55 like he is on DraftKings. That being said, some people that are smarter than me on in best ball do think he should be there. So I do think trying to take him on Underdog makes a lot of sense. Maybe even on DraftKings. I don't know if being like super overweight on DraftKings makes sense, but maybe being overweight on Underdog does, considering you do have this large value here, platform comparison wise. Parker Washington was getting a good amount of touchdowns in Jacksonville and a good amount of catches as well, and I guess yards also, especially towards the end of the year. And so if he does keep it up, he's definitely a value at 71. There's a lot of risk though, right? Like, is Jacoby Myers going to be doing what you kind of expect of him? Is Brian Robinson Jr., not Brian Robinson, Brian Thomas Jr. going to be doing what you expect out of him? Is Hunter going to come back and do excellent, or is he going to stay on defense? Who knows? So there's a lot of risk, but there maybe is a lot of reward, especially on Underdog. So if you are drafting Underdog, I think Parker Washington is probably someone you want to tackle. Other than that, it gets kind of difficult with the rest of these players. Look at what else you have. You have one, two, three QBs that are better values on Underdog. I would argue that in general, these are better values on Underdog, mainly because they're bad values on DraftKings. Joe Burrow, while I like him, Josh Allen, while I like him, and Matthew Stafford, while I like him, two of those guys are pocket passer quarterbacks, and Joe Burrow and Matthew Stafford. I don't want to draft them higher than I have to, and I do think 52 and 87 are rather high. And then Josh Allen, he's getting drafted 4 picks higher on DraftKings. With some of the value that's out there right now at quarterback, like running quarterbacks, I do think grabbing Josh Allen at the beginning of the third is a little early. Middle of the third, I think it's more justifiable because you start to knock off some other players that you might like, and then maybe Josh Allen's just the safest player at that point in time. So I do think that maybe Josh Allen has a little bit of value there at 30. Joe Burrow and Matthew Stafford just are horrible values where they're going on DraftKings. Then you have some injured players, or an injured player in Tyreek Hill, who's just Underdog just is more risk adverse on that. They're also more risk adverse on Rashee Rice. And so that's why they're a little bit lower on Underdog. And then I think the same thing with Christian McCaffrey. Some people think that it's the end for Christian McCaffrey. He didn't show the elite athleticism anymore. And so Underdog's being a little bit more, again, a little bit more conservative with that, while DraftKings is excited about, maybe how many touchdowns and catches he got last year. And DraftKings is a PPR site, so it does make sense. Wan'Dale Robinson's higher on DraftKings, again, because of the PPR as well. And then last but not least, you have on here Devin Neal and Mac Hollins. I do think they're interesting picks. I think they're more interesting picks at the end of the draft, like your second to last round or last round picks, like they're on Underdog, versus for whatever reason getting pushed up on DraftKings. Mac Hollins just has never been the guy. That being said, in the playoffs when he came back, he did I don't know if he led the team, but he did have a lot of catches, more catches than he expected, especially in the Super Bowl, which everyone was watching. I think maybe it was only the Super Bowl, which everyone was watching. And then Devin Neal, he might end up playing a huge part next year, so I kind of understand why he's at 198. So I do think he actually is a pretty darn good value on Underdog if you need a late round running back. Tyreek Hill's also on here again. I think I might have mentioned him, but due to the conservativeness, he's much lower on Underdog. What I think this is kind of telling you really is not like here's who the values are on Underdog. I think it's more saying like go draft on DraftKings in general, unless you're targeting Parker or Washington. If you're on DraftKings, you have quarterbacks getting pulled up, which means that ideally you can find better position players a little bit later on. And then you have players like Mac Hollins, who uh, is getting pulled up. Someone that, while he might catch some passes, he probably doesn't have elite upside or much upside at all. While maybe there's a player at the very end of the draft that you'd prefer to have that maybe has some upside. So, lesson learned for today: if you like Parker Washington, go Underdog. If you want other people drafting the risky players, and then you may be trying to find the ideal build, maybe try DraftKings. Okay, I think that's what I'll try to do here. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.